Okay, could I be any more excited to talk about this? Probably not. We all know Friends, right? We love it. It's just one of those shows. But what if I told you that under all those laughs, the lattes at Central Perk, there's actually a secret language lesson hiding in plain sight? We're about to look at this show in a way you probably never have before.
You remember this line, right? Chandler says it to Rachel right after she's bailed on her own wedding. And it's not just a great line for her, it's kind of the perfect way to think about learning a new language, It's going to be overwhelming for sure, it's going to be tough, but in the end, it's this adventure that you're just going to love. So yeah, this line, this is where we start. All right, so here's the core idea, the whole reason we're here. What if that classic scene from the pilot episode, the one where Rachel bursts into Central Perk in her wedding dress, what if that chaos isn't just amazing TV? What if it's actually a perfectly designed English lesson for someone just starting out?
It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? I mean, we usually think of learning as, sitting in a classroom, staring at a textbook. But this whole idea just flips that completely on its head. It basically says that the best classroom might actually be your own couch. And your teachers? Well, they're your favorite characters.
And hey, this isn't just some random theory I cooked up. Nope, we're about to break down a real, honest-to-goodness lesson plan that uses this exact scene to teach English. It takes one of the most emotional, chaotic moments of the show and turns it into these super clear, manageable learning goals. So, this is how it gives everything structure. Instead of just, kicking back and watching the show for fun, a student is actually guided to focus on these really specific building blocks. We're talking basic grammar, like subject pronouns and the verb to be. We're talking vocabulary for things like relationships and feelings, and then practical stuff like how to introduce yourself. It literally turns entertainment into a super focused exercise. So let's take vocabulary, for example. The lesson pulls a word right out of the scene, like roommate. It gives you a super simple definition, a person you live with. And then, this is the best part, it connects it right back to the show. Example, Monica is Rachel's roommate. Boom! It's simple, it's in context, and because you see it happen, it's instantly memorable.
Okay, so now let's get into the grammar. This is the really cool part. We're going to see how these fundamental English rules are just woven right into the dialogue. They're hiding in plain sight, right there in all the jokes and the drama.
And here's the foundation of it all, the verb to be. I mean, if you're learning English, this is one of the very first things you have to nail down. But instead of some boring rule in a textbook, the lesson just pulls these amazing examples straight from the script. You get to hear the grammar in each character's actual voice.
So you get Chandler with his classic deadpan delivery saying, "I am totally naked." How are you going to forget "I am" after that?
Then you have Joey's helpful realization for Ross. You are single. The emotion in that moment just cements "you are" right in your brain.
And of course, Monica trying to calm Rachel down about her ex-fiancé Barry. He is just some guy. You see, when you hear these simple grammar rules and these funny, emotional, totally human moments, they just stick way better than any worksheet could ever do.
Okay, so we've seen the grammar and the vocabulary hidden in the show. But how do you go from just watching to actually doing? How do you make it active practice? Well, this is where we really move from the couch into the classroom. The method here is actually so simple, it's brilliant. First off, you watch the scene. But you're not just watching, you're watching with a goal. Next, you answer some questions to make sure you actually understood what was going on. And then, and this is probably the most important step, you actually practice the dialogue. You become the characters.
All right, let's try step 2 right now. Here's a real question from the lesson plan. In that classic speech where Rachel says she doesn't want to be a shoe, what does she compare being a shoe to? What does she say she wants to be? Take a second to think about it.
A purse or a hat? Did you get it? See, it feels like a small thing, but getting that detail right proves you're not just watching, you're listening. You're actually picking up on the little details of the conversation.
And that brings us to the final step, performance. So students get the actual dialogue, and they're encouraged to practice it. And not just read it, but really perform it. Try to capture Monica's shock or Rachel's total panic.
Doing this builds so much confidence and gives you a real feel for the rhythm and emotion of how people actually speak.
So, we've seen the what and the how. But the big question is, why does this actually work? Why is learning this way so effective? Let's get into the magic behind it.
It all comes down to one word, really. Context. Your brain just learns better when grammar is connected to real emotion, right? To Rachel's panic, to Chandler's sarcasm. You have these visual cues, these memorable scenes, and you build a genuine connection with these characters you already love. So in the end, you're not just learning English, you're literally learning from your friends.
And that kind of brings us full circle. We've seen just how powerful a show like Friends can be for learning a language. So it gets you thinking, right? What about you? What's that movie, that song, that show that you know by heart? What piece of pop culture out there could be your perfect teacher?